Artificial intelligence, AI. Everybody is talking about it. Some people are very excited about the technology and what it can do. Large language models such as ChatGPT can write text that looks like it's written by a human. Some people think that they can even pass the Turing test, a test that was designed by Alan Turing a long time ago to find out whether a conversation partner is human or not, just based on questions and answers. AI can also do other things. It can make lifelike images and videos. And you will notice during this little talk, I will use images that I have created with AI. So watch out for the prompts that I put on that are used to create those images with Bing Image Creator. AI will also soon be able to do many of the repetitive things we do in our jobs and free us up to do more generative things, more creative things. Other people are really worried about AI. Some people worry about their jobs because AI can do all these repetitive things that they do in their jobs and feel they might soon be out of a job. Other people worry about those lifelike images and videos and what you can do with them. Especially in an election period like right now, you can create a different reality with AI that some people might believe, and this will endanger our democracy. Yet other people are worried about the singularity. This is the scenario where AI becomes sentient and conscious and takes over the world, a little bit like the Terminator movies. But I think there's a much more immediate problem that we need to talk about: energy. Training AI systems, building them, costs a lot of energy. These systems are trained on millions and millions of examples. It has been estimated that building GPT-3, the engine behind the original ChatGPT, cost as much energy as driving the car the distance to the moon and all the way back again. That's 760,000 kilometers, or roughly 19 times around the circumference of the Earth. This sits on the background of that we're already using about 4% of the world's energy for IT, even without AI. The whole of aviation only takes 2%. So this is a massive amount of energy already used. And if we continue with the current trend, where transformer models, that's the technology behind these large language models, they increase in size about 750 times every 2 years. If you continue this trend, you can make the calculation on the back of an envelope that by 2030, at the latest, we would use all the energy produced on Earth just to make chatbots. So this clearly can't continue. This trend is impossible to sustain. So is there no other way of doing intelligence? Of course there is. All of you, as you're sitting here in this room, have an amazing intelligence device right here in your heads. The human brain is estimated to use only about 20 watts of power. That's the same as an energy-saving light bulb. So how is the brain different that it can be such much more efficient than current computer systems and current AI? Well, some differences are obvious. We're not plugged into the wall and walk on AC power supplies of 240 volts. And your head's not filled all with silicon chips that are stacked on each other and get really hot when you're thinking. But there are also other differences that are important. Current AI is based on neural networks, where the neurons in the neural network exchange their activation status every time step of the computation with every connected neuron. This creates enormous data flows, and it's the data flows actually that make computers consume a lot of energy. In contrast, in the brain, neurons work more in isolation for longer times and only exchange information occasionally with so-called spikes. And these only transmit about 1 bit of information at a time. This idea of spike communication and sparse communication has inspired engineers and scientists since the 1980s to try to build computers that are more like brains and that are more energy efficient. And many of these systems have been built. But do you have a neuromorphic phone in your pocket? Why do I not have a neuromorphic watch? What is the problem here? The problem is that we don't actually know how to train these spiking neural networks that have this different paradigm of sparse communication to a level where they can compete with the artificial neural networks that work on the traditional computers. And this is where we come in with our research at Sussex. For more than a decade now, we have developed software and systems to simulate spiking neural networks very efficiently on standard hardware to find out how can we train them better, how can we make this work so that we can move to less energy-intensive systems. So let me unpack the problem for you a little bit more. The way artificial neural networks are trained is that you have the neural network and you have a task and millions of examples, as I already said. These examples are fed into the network one by one. We record their output, their answer, and then measure with a so-called loss function how good it was. When the loss is high, the answer was bad. When the loss is low, the answer was good. And then using mathematics, we can determine how to change the neural network to decrease the loss function, to decrease the badness of the answer, and therefore make it better. You can picture this as going down the loss landscape from a high point where you start to the lowest point where the loss is lowest and therefore the network performs well and gives the right answers. And for artificial neural networks, with their dense communications, this works very well. We have kind of a loss landscape that's rolling hills and where it's easy to find the way down, the steepest way down the hill into the valley. However, for the spiking neural networks, this landscape looks terrible. You have spikes and troughs, and you don't really know where to go to make the network better. We have worked on this, and most recently, we have found a way to change the way we measure loss. And that has transformed this landscape ever so subtly so that we now can go down the error landscape and train spiking neural networks as efficiently as the artificial neural networks we know today. And we have achieved a state-of-the-art performance in a speech recognition task just last year. We are now working in a project with Intel to take these networks and put them on their Loihi 2 neuromorphic hardware. This is a computer they have built with the same aim of making more brain-like, more energy-efficient computers. And we hope that we can demonstrate that we can actually harvest these savings of spike-like communication in neural networks in a concrete example of speech recognition on hardware. So we have achieved a lot, and there's a lot more to do. But I do think we are on the way to a less energy-intensive, sustainable AI for the future.